In a single day and night of misfortune, an entire civilization, with its advanced architecture and complex society, was violently swallowed by the sea. The origin of this apocalypse lies in 360 BC, in a thought experiment penned by Plato. He provided the blueprint for a dazzling naval empire situated past the Pillars of Hercules. It was built in a series of concentric rings of water and land, protected by massive walls coated in exotic, gleaming metals. Plato used this narrative as a moral allegory for his fellow Athenians, designing it to show how an arrogant nation inevitably loses divine favor and destroys itself through imperial greed. Yet the details of this fictional utopia were simply too alluring. Humanity largely abandoned the moral warning in favor of a centuries-long treasure hunt for a literal island. In the 1800s, that hunt escalated as amateur scholars and cartographers began mapping the myth as if it were a historical record. At the center of this movement was a politician named Ignatius Donnelly. These theorists proposed a mother culture theory, suggesting that Atlantis was the singular, advanced origin point for all subsequent human civilizations. They argued that the massive stone pyramids of the Egyptian desert served as proof of this connection, pointing to the similar stepped temples of the Maya as evidence of a shared, lost ancestor that bridged the vast distance between the two worlds. This obsession was fueled by a deep psychological urge to fill the terrifying blank spaces of human history with a grand, unifying explanation. This persistent belief in Atlantis remains credible today because occasionally mythical cities turn out to be real. For generations, Troy was considered a poetic fiction created by Homer for the Iliad. That changed when an investigator named Heinrich Schliemann began treating the epic poem as a literal guide. In the 1860s, Schliemann's excavations uncovered the actual physical remains of the city buried in the dirt of Anatolia. A legendary kingdom was suddenly an archaeological site. The sea hides its secrets just as effectively as the soil. Off the coast of Greece lies Pavlopetri, currently recognized as the oldest submerged town ever discovered. This was a vibrant Bronze Age port until a series of consecutive violent earthquakes dragged the entire metropolis underwater, leaving it hidden for millennia. Triumphs like Troy and Pavlopetri validate our sense of wonder. They prove that the Earth actually does swallow civilizations, sometimes without leaving a trace on the surface. If we apply this same modern geological analysis to Plato's specific geographic clues, we can test the Atlantis legend against the physical history of the planet. Plato placed the empire past the Pillars of Hercules, which we now identify as the Straits of Gibraltar, at the western edge of the Mediterranean. Modern oceanographic mapping here reveals a submerged landmass called the Spartel Bank. It sits directly on a subduction zone, the violent boundary between two tectonic plates. This fault can produce the massive earthquakes and tsunamis Plato described, easily overwhelming any inhabitants on the island. The mechanism for catastrophic destruction is scientifically verified. However, the complete absence of human ruins on this sunken landmass suggests that while Plato's geology was accurate, his city remained a work of fiction. Plato was far from the only ancient voice fixated on rising waters. Almost every global culture possesses a deeply ingrained flood myth. This graph shows the rapid historical rise in global sea levels at the end of the last ice age. These widespread stories are likely the preserved cultural trauma from a period of severe sea level rise that drowned early coastal settlements. This ancient trauma recontextualizes Plato's story, turning a fictionalized account of the past into a prescient warning for our own future. Today, our modern coastal infrastructure is highly vulnerable to these same natural forces. The arrogance Plato warned against extends to our modern world, the assumption that our concrete cities are immune to the tides that erased our ancestors. Our mapping of the ocean floor is still in its infancy. Vast regions of the deep remain completely unmapped by modern science. The concentric walls of Atlantis may be fiction, but the planet is exceptionally good at hiding its secrets. We know this because Troy was a myth until excavated, and Pavlopetri invisible until discovered. Deep, lightless ocean trenches and remote environments continue to hide parts of the human story that we have yet to penetrate. With the majority of our world still unexplored, we are left to wonder what other significant chapters of human history are still waiting in the dark to be